I'm Rob.
I'm E.
I'm Gabe Nandez.
Welcome to the next movement, folks.
Count up the worms. I want the power, I want the world. Pangea, light up and burn. Stampede, I brought the herd. Je nos yeux sur la piste, fais ça pour tous les rapides de l'Afrique. Polo, tu sais déjà qui c'est le boss. Tu veux ma position, tu veux mon poste. New York City, nigga, we in this bitch. We started this, did you niggas forget? I be on dolo, I don't got no click. I am the logo, I hold down a brick. I've been the best for a while. Turn the shit up, let the decibels wild. Let's get money, make the decimals pile. When it's sunny, make your Jezebel smile. She know you broke cause the way that you walk. She like me just because I'm from New York. Not from this planet, I'm from outer space. Throw down the canvas and put up my face. Fuck a pandemic, 8 feet deep in a hand sweating. Need a couple seats in the damn Senate, so I pull up on the beat like a hand weapon. You know who the fuck Gabe Nandez is. Shadow box while I'm on Pantera. Posted on the block like an antenna. Pull up on the op on the land terror. Pangea. Pangea.
Thanks for joining us. Gabe Nandez is with us. Gabe, thank you so much for your time. Glad to have you here.
My pleasure.
We are eager to talk to you about Pangea, about this latest project that you have released. And I think we'll just dive right in. As I understand it, Pangea was it recorded during the pandemic as well? I know it was written during the pandemic.
Yeah, both. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, all of it written and recorded. Yeah.
Okay, so written and recorded early days of the pandemic. The Bandcamp description of Pangea talks about the way the pandemic may have kind of united us as one continent, so to speak. And you're addressing this sort of universal consciousness that the experience may have provided to us. It's an interesting perspective, and we'll get deeper into that as we go. But to start, the project's entirely produced by Tony Seltzer. The beats are crazy. There's a diversity to these beats that really allows you to display different styles. Was it important to you to work with a single producer on this project, given its theme of collective unconsciousness?
Now that I think about it, I made a conscious choice with the features to kind of cater to that philosophy. Now that you mention it, I never thought about it. But yeah, the fact that one producer produces the whole thing lends to that as well. It wasn't a conscious choice. I definitely wanted to work with Tony on one full project because we've been working together for a long time, and he used to engineer me, so it just made sense to just lock in and do that with him. Yeah.
That's a nice coincidence that it fits with the theme.
Yeah, thematically, it's on point. It's there from ordained from over there.
So you and Tony have been working together for a while, but how did you specifically connect for this project?
For this one, so I record at his studio, and for a while he was engineering me right before he kind of dialed back on the engineering, and because he's busy obviously and stuff. So I still recorded at his studio, but just with another engineer. So yeah, it just came out of him tracking me for other projects, and we worked really closely on my first full-length Diplomacy, and we had worked before then too. He has a beat on my first project, HT, and I'm on one of his records when he used to go by Young Gutted. I'm on one of those projects too, so known him for a minute.
So how do you think his production complements your lyricism on Pangea?
That's a good question. Definitely when I'm rapping over Tony's beats, just because of how heavy the bass hits and all that, it just makes me rap a certain way. Whereas if I was rapping, not that it's not introspective, but I tend to go even further out when that bass doesn't knock. That bass knocking gives a certain dimension where it's dancier. You know what I mean? You could play that shit, I guess, in a club now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so all that, it gives for different flows, and through that, just a different level of consciousness that I use. Not to negate or say that I don't like the project at all or anything like that, but it just it doesn't lend to my highest philosophically, the introspection stays within a chamber, a certain chamber, just because of what the music does. Yeah.
That's interesting. And so Pangea is described as a project that's been designed to rattle your skull, even when the tempo is set to a slow creep. So I imagine that's, some of that's probably because of the production. But just reading this description, I wondered what kind of effect the project has had on you specifically. How did it feel to make it, and what emotions did you go through after you heard the finished product for the first time?
Like I was going through, like all of us, there's the motions of the actual lockdown and all that shit. So there's just like a lot of, just like pent up shit. You know what I mean? Like just
sure.
Not being able to get it out in ways we normally would. The pandemic coincided with some stuff that like I like had to navigate from like a neurological perspective, and like which led to a lot of like really high emotions that I was going through, like bursts of very intense energy and aggression. Like there's aggression in all my work, but like Tony's beats lend. I mean, shit, I'm aggressive on all my shit, but like to that. So in terms of hearing it after, right after, yeah, like I was super stoked on it. I'm still stoked on it, but it's just I made so much music since then, so it's like it's a different feeling. But yeah, when it was done, I was like, yes, fucking sick. And it's still like 3 years old, so it's just like it's a different, like it's just different.
Yeah.
I want to try to expand on this theme of universal consciousness, or the way the pandemic contributed to a collective experience. As you mentioned, there's sort of a united New York presented through the guest features on the project. You've got folks from all over the city contributing. But as I've been listening to it, I've been wondering about how the writing and creating this project may have helped sort of unite disconnected parts of yourself. You've got tracks like Transactions and Context, for example, that offer some introspection. It seems like there may have been an opportunity here to bring together like memories of yourself, different parts of your life, various experiences over the past few years.
It's funny, like that's the thing. Like, funny enough, I actually heard Roc say this in an interview. He was like, I'm surprised how I can keep flipping experiences. Like that one experience that I had, I can keep flipping it like 5 different ways. Yeah. So it's like, that's always happening to me when I'm writing. Like I have a song, on this EP I dropped called Ox, and it's called Clark. And it's kind of like, conceptually, it's like the same thing as Transactions. It's just like me like going over various anecdotes of me just like wilding out on some street shit. Not like when I say street shit, not on some gang shit, but just like being out in the streets, buying and consuming drugs and being in that world. And it's something. It boils down to the sonics of the beat. Like the beat just like takes me to a place. You know what I mean? And I just pull from there. And then there's some stuff like, I guess, Context, like where it's a bit more like Transactions is specific, like one thing, but Context, yeah, like I'm pulling from this situation and kind of like. It's kind of like a little all over the place, but it's always reference. It's like the little thing, like 2 bars is in reference to like a thing that happened, that I guess, only I know, or like people close to me would know, if that answers the question. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like what you're saying is it's not the experiences that you're drawing from on Pangea, not necessarily all that different from things that you've talked about in the past. And it wasn't like a conscious effort to pull in or bring various experiences for your life together for this project.
It's funny because like as conceptual as the title and the cover and the features and now even the producer are, as far as like the thematics of me lyrically, yeah, they're not like necessarily too dialed into that, but it's just like I think any listener may pick up on that as well, because I mean objectively that's the case, but like it's just a reflection of how I was feeling, which I guess is kind of vague because it's always like that for, I think, a record. But it's interesting. Thematically, it's there from all those things I mentioned, but then universally through the songs, it's just a byproduct of like what was going on internally, really. It's just emotion. It's a very emotional record. I guess all my music kind of is, but it's like, I just know I was... Shit, it's always the case though. I'm just emotional in general, which is also vague. But like, yeah, it's just like me during the pandemic, like how I felt, which was a lot of high energy, pent up aggression.
Speaking of emotions, I wanted to take a dive into some of the lyrics on Pangea, if we could. I'm thinking about Context first, because there's this sample that repeatedly sings, more than enough throughout the track, right? So it sounds like it's a tool serving as a positive affirmation. So I wondered, in creating this project, including the song, did the process feel like a therapeutic tool for you that you were using to heal, considering the difficulty you were experiencing at the time?
Yeah, 1,000%, 1,000%. All the work is always cathartic because it's like, it's like, yeah, like I just don't exist without writing. Like my identity doesn't really like, like writing and art is just my identity. So it's like, it's just part of how I like breathe to like channel that. But yeah, definitely Pangea. I don't necessarily want to think more because like I wouldn't say I like qualifies it like that, but yeah, like I was going through phases where I wasn't able to make any music at all just because the stuff that was happening like neurochemically and stuff, and then I'd have these bursts where I could create. So all these songs were made like in a frantic, like, okay, I got a week to make songs to write before I'm like out for the next two. Um, so yeah, it was extremely therapeutic, 100%, like big time. Yeah.
I think that comes through in your lyricism for sure. And I've read about your process, and it seems like this is something you definitely use as an outlet.
Yeah, I need this shit. It's like I'll be doing this if like nobody paid attention. I wouldn't say I do it for me because it's not that one dimensional. I do it for other people too. Like I do it, but ultimately I do it to do it. Like when you're an artist, it's like I guess you have a choice to opt out, but like you just suffer. Like you just suffer if you don't create. And then sharing is another thing, but I really like to share my art, yeah, for various reasons, but like mainly because I know that's what I'm here for and stuff. So
yeah, you're saying you need this shit as an artist, and I'm saying I need this shit as a listener. Yeah, it's a way for me to survive as well.
What's up, man? That's so dope to hear. And I hear you. Like music has gotten me and honestly gets us through so much shit. Like, and I really do think music is the highest form of art. Like, not that the other ones aren't as important or as valid, but music is like, music sound, like sound that's from somewhere else. Like that's like we can't even like explain music really.
Let's talk about Pit Boss for a minute.
I'm pissed off, playing the sidelines, I'm like a pit boss. Living this lifetime, dying to get across. Guess I'm not trying enough to play the sport, but yeah, still pissed off. Trying to calm down, I'm trying hard, y'all. Am I not trying enough? I can't tell. Am I just riding this bus to go to hell? Cause, I feel chosen. Seen people wearing a mask before COVID-19. Out with the habits from scoring. Teen in East Africa, rap for foreign. This shit is tedious, I don't know how it's not. But I know I got a problem, cause I don't know how to stop. And I got a lot of options, opinions all in my head. Hit the gas, pour the liquor, your picture sit by my bed. Got trust issues, I don't know if I could fix. 1 minute I'm your brother, next day I'm with your bitch. Somewhere in the mix, evil is lurking between the kids. I could flip a switch easily on you, don't get it twisted.
On Pit Boss, you say, I'm pissed off, playing the sidelines, I'm like a pit boss. Living this lifetime, dying to get across. Guess I'm not trying enough to play the sport. So it feels like you might be talking about your frustrations around the limitations of the pandemic, but it also sounds like you could be speaking about other aspects of your life or your career. And I'm wondering if you could say more about what these lyrics are tapping into.
Yeah, those are correct. And yeah, that one is specifically at the time, like, that's crazy. That's crazy because it came out before this EP I dropped called Ox, and the song Ox I dropped, which actually changed like the trajectory of my quote unquote career. And at that time, I was just like, more frustrated at kind of like where I was at, but also just like my relationship to like my peers and just like to just like shit just all the the really corny adversity that I dealt with like my peers in the past. It's way better now. And just the whole politics of like being a rapper and like how little I give a fuck about that shit and like how I just don't deal with like, I don't know, like the interpersonal dynamics and just like Generation Z really has a problem with like communication and like respect. And it's a generalization, but it's, all generalizations are false, including this one. Like Mark Twain said, it's like, like fuck it, like we kind of have to at a certain point. So yeah, that track was about just being frustrated and just being like where I was at, which I don't feel like anymore. I'm really happy with where I'm at, but
You said that your style as an MC and the content that you're rapping about could be determined by production. So lyrics tend to be deeper when you're rapping on a drumless beat versus a more philosopher king shit approach, as you've explained. Do you have a sense as to what version of Gabe Nandez folks are connecting with when they listen to your music? Have you gotten more feedback around one approach versus the other?
That's a good question. Yeah, some people have been like, be like, oh, I prefer when you rap on this. I'm like, I don't give a fuck what you like think. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care. I didn't ask you first of all. You know what I'm saying? Like the only people I always ask, my inner circle of like 3 people, and they fuck with all my shit because they just fuck with me as an artist. I feel like if you fuck with me as an artist, like, I mean, obviously, well, that's not true. I was gonna say if you fuck with me as an artist, you might fuck with like all my shit, but I can see how someone would like some of my shit and not some other shit. I mean, there's shit that I made that I don't necessarily like as much, but I'm not sure. It's a great question, but I don't know the answer. But I do know that I'm definitely going in a more like the next, because I'm working on like 5 projects right now at the same time, and they're all like definitely in the more boom bap like vein. And yeah, we'll see. People are gonna like it. This is fire, but like I'm not too sure. It's yeah, I wonder. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Damn, 5 projects. Okay.
Going crazy. I just left the studio. I'm going fucking crazy. You know when you like do something for a long and like, you know, in like the span of like a few maybe days, you're just like, wait a second, I just got so much better at this thing. You know what I mean? Like it goes faster. So like the pen has been flowing a lot. Yeah, so I'm like dropping once more this year, and then then I'm just like ready to go for mad shit. Yeah, after.
I can hear how you've sort of like moved on from Pangea because of the creative process that you just described. But I personally feel grateful for projects like Pangea, not just because of the musical aspect, which we talked about a minute ago, but because I think it's really easy to forget like what things were like during the first 2 years of the pandemic. And I can understand why we might want to forget that, but I also think there are things that we might need to remember. You know, the collective experience that the themes touch on Pangea and things we may have learned from that, like feel important to me to try and like hold on to. I'm wondering if you see the project as like a time capsule, so to speak, or was it just a matter of like getting out what you were feeling?
Yeah, and word definitely. Yeah, I think it's important to like remember that shit. It was crazy. And yeah, with both, it's definitely a time capsule for me. It's definitely a moment in time. I actually went back to it. I was working on it. I didn't get to a point where I was like, I was finished in 2020, right? It didn't go there. Then I made all these other records. I made 3, 4, whatever. I made however many I made. And then I came back to it. I'm like, yo, time to finish this shit. And then I was like, I can't touch this. This shit is done. I was going to make it longer. But then like I went back and it was so much a moment in time that I'm like, I can't even like create on this. Like this is like, it's over there. And obviously for me, whenever I listen to it, I'll always go back there, like, which is the case for all my projects. But yeah, I definitely think it's that. I mean, whether or not listeners will know, because they'd have to know the backstory, I guess, to know. But yeah, for me, that's what it is, 100%.
How you've described like the energy that went into making it and the energy you can hear as a listener, for me, definitely touches on or represents in some way like what people were going through during that time. So
That's dope to hear.
So you've said that Pangea has been hard for you to revisit because of what you were going through. And I mean, you're talking to us about it now, but I've read things about it too. And I imagine that's probably not the first time you've experienced that as an artist because of what you're writing about. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering how you handle performing songs from projects like Pangea when you're in front of an audience. Do you have to compartmentalize to get through, or does it feel less lonely to revisit difficult times and emotions when you have a crowd surrounding you?
It's a great question. Yeah, on stage, it's whatever, you know, it's like trance-like. But then if I have to listen, like listening to it, it's crazy how music, like a song will sound different to me when I'm listening to it in iTunes versus the Spotify display. Like just because of like the like software that it's on.
Yeah.
But if like I'm in a room full of people and someone plays that shit, Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like it varies. Sometimes I remember I was listening to Transactions when it came out and like on repeat, like the day, because the day I dropped something, I always like to listen to the song a bunch because I'm like, yo, this is like the only time this song is gonna sound like this. I was telling my mans, I was like, yo, because he's been through it too. I was like, yo, we've been through some fucked up shit. And like, at one point I had to turn it off because it was just, yeah, it was intense. I was like, man, that was so crazy that that happened. But generally speaking, it's mostly like me just being like, I don't want to like go to go to the past, not necessarily because of the trauma or like quote unquote or whatever, but just because the music. I'm like, okay, this song is old. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I want to listen to, but like I listen to my, I don't really listen to too much music nowadays. I just listen to my new shit. Like that's constantly what I'm doing, and I have so much of it that I can just always play it. So yeah, it does vary, but like performing it is always like because I go into trance when I perform, so it's like it just hits different and it's fun. But listening to it, yeah, it's either difficult or I'm just like this shit is old.
Hearing about your process and like how you use writing and how you use music just to get through is sort of making me wonder about escapism. So like, you know, hearing you talk about the pandemic and us talking about Pangea reminded me of how much we used music to escape the reality that we were faced with, right? So, you know, I've read about your process and you're very keen on creating these worlds, right? With the albums that you create. And so for me, that's appealing as a listener because I look to those worlds, like when it concerns music, where it concerns books as a means as escapism. I'm wondering if, even though you're talking about difficult things, I'm wondering if your music for you sometimes serves as a means of escapism.
Also a great question. All these questions are great. Does escapism, like in the dictionary definition, does it have a negative connotation to it?
I think that I don't know what the dictionary says, but for me, I think that escapism can be good and bad. So I'll just talk about my personal experience. So I think that, yeah, I think it's a way to maintain your sanity, but I also think you can get lost in escapism, and that's not necessarily a good thing. So I think it can be both. I think you have to maintain a balance.
Facts. Yeah, I would agree with that. Um, I would say there's like a duality and a polarity to it when I create because it's like escapism, but it's also mostly like there's no term for this like facism. Like it's me facing shit too. So it's like both at the same time, you know. But I see it more as me facing shit because I know a lot about escaping because I did that with drugs every single day. You know what I'm saying? Like for a minute. So that was like the rawest form of escapism that I can like refer to. But I guess in a sense, the writing process is escapism from other things, like things that are happening in like the physical world and stuff. But as far as like what's happening in my internal world, that's me facing shit every time I write and me making sense and sorting through stuff. Because I don't, and obviously there's two connotations to escapism, but like I don't, and I know that's not what you're saying or insinuating, but I don't run away from things anymore. Like again, that's not what you're saying, but yeah, like that's the last thing I ever do now is because I used to do that, so I do the complete opposite now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, when I hear the word escapism, I think of Janet Jackson's Escapade, and that's a positive thing for me. So there you go.
Is that a song by her?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a happy one.
That's an old song. It was like the late 80s or something, I think.
Tap in.
Yeah.
The interview that you did with Passion of the Wise, it was very good, by the way, but you dig into a lot of stuff, but you talk about this collective consciousness and unconsciousness, and we've discussed it already in this interview, and how you consider these concepts throughout the pandemic. And it seems to be Pangea's theme, or certainly what inspired the project. I started to think about these ideas, namely collective consciousness, and how it can negatively impact the way people consume music. So using the social media example you give in this interview, it often feels like the same conversations are happening around a very small pool of artists, right? Day after day after day. And this has become what folks use to define the standard, which ultimately shapes the way that they consume music. I'm wondering if you feel like that could be a potential threat to artists outside of that small pool in the culture at large.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I feel like we're witnessing like the death of individuality amongst young people, and a lot of like motherfuckers just is this, what do you think? Do you even know what you think? Do you know who you are? I mean, do you know who you are? That's like, I would say that applies generationally. That's like on a human's journey as just a human of self-discovery. But yo, like, yeah, nah, like it's too much like hive mind, too much, whatever. I'm not gonna say what's too much or not enough, but it's a lot of hive mind. Because I mean, I remember shit before the internet. I think my age group, so I'm 29. Like I remember playing outside, and then I remember 13 Facebook. So like I remember how shit switched pre-social media. But yeah, like the kids that are growing up now, where social media just this. I'm like, yo, like little girls looking up and do what you want. I'm not here to police anybody, like you know, like women's bodies or no shit like that. But like, and not just women. It's just the hypersexualization of just like just youth or whatever. Like all that to say, like things like you know, the stuff kids are gonna look up to, and just like I don't know, people are following people that like don't know where the fuck they're going. You know what I'm saying? Like people will follow a motherfucker off the cliff because a motherfucker got 10K likes. You feel me? So yeah, like I just like I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it's doing more harm than good, I would say, for sure. Well, complicated because the internet is great and technology is great because you know, but I think we are witnessing the like the rise of the dark side of it in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think that there's so many levels to it. Like you were just saying, it speaks to so many different things around life, but it just really started to bother me where it concerns music. Like I just see the same few people being talked about over and over and over again, and it's just like there are other people out here doing the same thing, doing it on a similar level, but there's just I don't know, it's just this sort of loop we get stuck on.
Definitely for the app shit. It's like, yo, man, like I don't even like, you know what I'm saying? Yo, like it could have been him, it could have been him, it could have been him. It was the same shit. Like, you know, in my lane, whatever, like, yeah, I guess, you know, whatever, quote unquote underground. I don't like that term or whatever the fuck, but there's a lot of really cool shit happening there. But generally speaking, as far as rap, forget about it. I mean, rap's always been that, I guess, like the next hot thing and like the one hit wonder or whatever. But yeah, nah, like it's an objective fact that it's on another level right now. It's just, and hip hop is pop now. It's like the rules have changed. Like the pop rules apply and shit, but it's still hip hop and we still rap. So it's like we're in a weird space where like both tenets are clashing and shit.
Yeah, depressing.
I mean, I personally can't wait to just like, I don't know, man, like keep climbing and climbing and climbing until I really have a platform to just like, man, just like really, really like, this is great already. You know what I'm saying? Like, but like, we just need to have these conversations. You know, I'm not hearing this conversation. Like, I'm not hearing it on a quote unquote, you know, the high levels of rappers, whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? Like, it's like no one cares. We live in the I don't care shit. It's like cool to, oh, I don't care. I don't care about that. You know what I'm saying? Type shit. Anyways. Yeah.
Well, I hear the passion in that, in your response.
Fact.
When I think about Twitter or social media in general, I guess I often think about something that Uncommon NASA said several years ago. I don't think he said it to us. It was somewhere else, but it's like having an original thought and like tweeting that or posting that is so different than just getting on platform and liking stuff and retweeting it. And I feel like that's something that we are losing. It kind of like you were saying, Gabe, like, do you know yourself or do you have an original thought? Like challenge yourself to think outside of what the popular narrative is. And that concerns music too. Like you all are saying.
Yeah, 1,000%. And yeah, 100% to that. And like to your point also, like the medium is very much the message. Like, you know, fucking tweet or retweet versus like your face on camera, like hashing some shit out, or on a podcast, like we're hearing you like extrapolate and explain your but the hive mind on Twitter shit's crazy. Oh my Twitter, poo! Oh man. Like you said, depressing before. Like, I would say like Twitter is a pretty good example of like Twitter is like just the gutter 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, that'll bring you down quick for sure.
That's what people do on there. They bring each other down. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's shift. Let's shift to something more enjoyable, exciting, perhaps. Let's talk about Roc Marciano and Reloaded.
Yo, how you perform under pressure, that's a man's measure. Blame the desert, you compare to me never. My pleasure, 4 you up for a small treasure. Line you up like a wall edger. Poor fella in stormy weather, walk with the umbrella. I see your errors more now than ever. My wolves will snack on you, while I relax in the sauna. Your rap's worth a glass of tap water. So back up offer, black enforcer, that's an order. 500 stacks, that's an offer. Bassmaster, catch a orca, that'll cost you. While I crack crab on a glass saucer, applesauce, Porsche trucks pull up like Chauncey Billups. Niggas is hit up, fuck penthouse, pin-ups, pimp cups, been filled up. Penny fills concealed, still tuck. Slide dick and Brazilian cut, bust nuts. Trillion cut touch, unfamiliar mugs is mug. When straight slugs flood, play the tub. Them boys sell snow, the dough like a oil well flow. That's on the low like COINTELPRO. Shells blow, you red as Elmo, the tale's well known. I still feel compelled just to tell folks but how we went from the ghetto to Melrose, get elbows, enjoy L's on sailboats, feline flip-flops, felines ponder the dick size, squander chips, live big time, Prada kicks, Swiss wristwatch, your Benny tick-tock, amongst men that rhyme we are demigods, rings is 20 large, push big dog cars, call them St. Bernards, bang tar,
All right, every episode of the show, we ask our guests to choose an album that's either a favorite, it's been, maybe it's been influential in some way on their art. We ask them to pick an album, and we talk about that album. So this time around, we're talking about Reloaded, Roc Marciano's, this was his second album, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Roc Marciano's second album. I want to start by saying or asking, I think it was in the same Passion of the Weiss interview that he just referenced. You mentioned being blown away the first time you heard Roc Marci, that you'd never heard anything like it before. What was it about him that stuck out to you as being different?
Yeah, just the shit he was saying. I was like, what the fuck did he say? Like, I'm trying to think of a bar. Like, yeah, I copped the code in Mongolia, spoke harmonious at the podium. I'm like, what? What is that? What is that? It's like regal shit, and obviously like Ray, guys like that, like Raekwon, they had their spin on it, but the way Roc freaks it is just, it's so singular. Like, he's really one of those singular, and obviously like the technical proficiency is absolutely incredible. Like the rhyme schemes, and just like, man, he's just like, he's one of the best to ever do that shit. But also the production, man. Like at that point, it's like that wave, like Marsburg, like, he started that whole like, Griselda shit, like that whole started the Griselda shit, whatever. He was a precursor to, that's their own thing, respectfully. I mean that, I don't want to get in trouble. Yeah, 2010 Marsburg, literally not a single fucking person, I don't think, was doing that. So it's rare in rap that happens. Very rare. I feel like almost Roc Marci is a subgenre, and like all the stuff that's happening now, like I think some people would even classify it like, the drumless, whatever the title they would throw on it, but it's like he's a pioneer, So it's like there's not a lot of times where I just hear music and I'm just like, yeah, I've never heard this shit.
When did you start paying attention to him? He's been around for a minute.
Yeah. I was in university. How did I get put on? I can't remember. I wish I did. I think I just found him on YouTube. I think I found 76 on YouTube, the video. And I was like, what? Because even that, like, that's a great first thing, because the video is incredible. But that's the first project I heard from him. And like, oh man, what's the name of that track off the record? I forgot to mention the production too. I don't know. I said the production with the drum and stuff, but he has these samples that are like so just far out. I don't know. Like I said, but yeah, just like there's a mystical dimension to Reloaded that just like caters to just my being as just like the stuff I'm interested in. It's like a cult. It's subtly occult. Like there's something subtly occult about specifically that album, and like he has bars about like magic, like slightly like, you know, he's mystical. He's on some mystical shit, but he's like gully as fuck. You know, I guess like, you know, kind of like how Wu was, but in a different way. But yeah, I can't remember exactly how I found him. I think I just found him on the internet. I saw a video, and then Reloaded has been in my rotation. And like I said, I'm not really listening to too much music. I'll go like other rappers. But dude, I've been knocking that album since I heard it in like 2013.
It sounds like you first caught on to him around the time that Reloaded was coming out.
Yes, I think yeah.
Yeah.
In 2012, is that correct? Like, do we know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 years after Marsburg, which I heard after, but yeah. And then I found Ka through him, and I was like, yo, who are these guys? I was like, who the fuck are these like hood warrior monks? You know, I was just like, yeah, the songwriting, it's like, yeah, like guys like Woods, Roc Marciano, and Ka, you could print their stuff. That's when you know a motherfucking nice. When you can just print his shit out and just read it, and you're just like, that's it. You could just read it. You don't even, that's when you know those are writers. You know, it's like Hemingway shit.
And shout out to Knowledge the Pirate.
Yeah, facts. Shout out to Knowledge as well. I saw Rock twice live, and Knowledge rocked the mic both, and it was fucking dope. Especially the last time, people went crazy. I don't know what song he played. I don't know if it's out, but it was absolutely nuts. Yeah, and that too, like he like Roc Marciano creates like you mentioned, like creating worlds. Like he's such a, you know, he's a package artist, but like yeah, the even like the collaborations, how like he continues to do them, whether it's Knowledge and I always love that because it's like self-referential almost to like his world, and it's just like you can tell it's deeper than music with those guys. You know, those guys are friends. You know, which is cool.
Yeah.
I have a hard time putting words to this kind of stuff, but there's definitely something about the way he uses, like the language, the words, the actual words that he uses, the way that he says them. And I guess that coupled with the production is like you're saying, like his whole, it's like a whole world. He's like, he builds a world. Sometimes in a single bar or in a single verse, I feel like pulled into some, I'm like, it's like watching a movie to some extent.
Yes. Very cinematic. I heard him say that he would like to score a film. And so I think definitely lends to what you're saying. It's cinematic is definitely the adjective. I would love to see that fucking movie too. Holy shit. That would be
Well, you talked about the beats a little bit. You talked about the production a little bit. You mentioned the drumless beats. And I think you've made it clear already that he created a blueprint of sorts for a lot of folks who came after him. There's something about the sparseness of his production, especially on the early stuff, that is striking to me. It sounds like that's part of what was the appeal for you also. Just the sparseness of it is stripped down, a lot of focus on his vocals.
Yeah, nothing is fighting between the vocals and the music. And you know what it is? It's like he's talking. It's like he's not even rapping. He just like, I heard Ka say this in an interview too. He's like, yo, my music is like you turn it on and I'm in the room with you and I'm just talking to you. You know, and that's how it feels. These men are just like, they're just talking. They're just fucking, and that's the other thing. Like, he is dropping so many jewels too. Like, I listened to that album and I learned something. You know what I mean? I learned a few things. And yeah, just like, I love the way he like, he really is a philosopher. Like the way he drops, like, is it an aphorism or like I forget what an aphorism is. I think it's man, I'm blanking on words, but fuck it, like, yeah, he'll say shit like, "Don't ride the camel when it's hot." And you're like, what the fuck does that mean? But you know exactly what it means. You know what I'm saying? I mean, things that's some like Lao Tzu shit. Like that's profound. And yeah, me hearing that, I'm just like, my mind was blown. I keep thinking about Raekwon, like every time. Like every time I say shit like that, like, and I never thought about it before this conversation, but it reminds me of like, you know, in a different way, like stuff, you know, Ray would say where it's just like you can interpret it in many ways. Like there's just not a lot of that in hip hop. Like a lot of shit is just on the nose, which is fine. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, some of my favorite rappers is like Styles and Jada, and they'll just and Prodigy, and they'll straight up just say like, "I'll fucking punch you in the," you know what I'm saying? Like some direct shit, but it's also profound. But this is profound just in a different way, and I appreciate it so much because I hadn't really heard it outside of like woo shit.
Thought about Raekwon, thought about Ghost a lot. I also thought about Camp Lo for some reason. It's a similar like crypticness to what they're talking about.
Yo, I never tapped in. I know one song. This is it, right? Those guys?
Lucchini, right? Yeah.
Classic. But I don't remember the lyrics. I don't remember the lyrics. But shit, I tap in them if that's the case.
Yeah. You have to go back and take a listen because they are just talking about stuff you have no idea what they're talking about. Like speaking their own language almost.
Oh, dope. I like that kind of shit. Yeah, that's what's up.
I feel like Roc is revered by a lot of independent rappers for his contributions, but it just feels like he's really embraced by New York in general. I've heard people say that he revitalized the scene. I'm wondering if you feel that way.
Yeah, he's a revolutionary. So many, like, there's a family tree for like a whole lane of rap, and Roc is like at the top. You know, he's that guy. Yeah, like at that era, dudes like Sean Price and Roc Marciano, and then before that, Doom. Yeah, these are just like giants that just really like like there's hip hop pre and post Roc Marciano straight up. Like Roc Marciano's second incarnation, because obviously he did that stuff with the UN, which I found out about later, like when he was down with Busta Rhymes back in I guess the 90s, early 2000s. But yeah, like there's post Roc Marciano hip hop, and there's hundreds of albums now. It's crazy, and it kind of seemed like because there was none, and then there's so much now. You know, it's like where did it come from? It's like this guy did it, ushered in the flight. It's incredible. It's incredible. I can't think of too many, and just in music, you know, that's like a great feat in any genre to be able to like do that. It's like
for sure. I mean, I don't know how everybody feels, but for me, it makes me appreciate somebody's work that much more when they've made a significant impact like he has, like you're saying. I mean, it's somebody to be studied.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm excited for what he does, what he keeps doing. Like even that, like that Stove God Cooks album that he just produced, like, man, it was so good. Like he's just like behind the scenes or emceeing, like he gets the props he deserves in a sense, but I really feel like he deserves even more props. Like I heard him say something, I think it was on stage, he might have said it or somewhere. He was like, I should be playing fucking Coachella. I'm like, yeah, you fucking should. Like, I think so, you know what I mean? Like, but it's like you were saying before, like there's just like you were saying like before, like there's all these people, but there's also this person. You know what I mean? Like it's like a lot of people could appreciate Roc that don't know, like that aren't like quote unquote tapped into whatever this. He's not underground, but you know what I mean. Like even on like quote unquote mainstream, whatever. Like I think he deserves even more than what he like recognition or I don't know if it's credit. You know, like a lot of people will attest to like what he's done, but yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hear what you're saying because to me, he's a big independent artist. I don't even know if he calls himself that anymore, but not as big as he should be, right? In terms of what he's done.
Yeah, it's exactly in terms of all the stuff we just talked about. It's like Doom. He should be Doom status. You feel me? Like I feel like he's a little under Doom status in terms of like. And I don't know what the solution is. I don't know that it's a problem. I don't know that, you know what I mean? Like, he's so fucking good. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Like, he's fucking incredible. I'm like, yo, they should build statues of this man. Like, you know?
I was curious. So I've heard you talk about you gravitating towards Roc because of his uniqueness. I think you say in that Passion of Wise interview, like you heard him for the first time and you're like, who the fuck is this? Out of excitement. I wondered if his voice itself, if that was something that attracted you to him. For me, that matters a big deal. Like that's a big deal to me, right? If I'm listening to somebody, like their voice has to be attractive to my ears. So I wondered if that was something that stood out to you as well.
I never really consciously thought about the actual, like, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess sonics of the like, you know, whether it's raspy or whatever, but like in a sense, delivery, I suppose, has to do with voice in a sense. So like that's what really struck me was just like the cadence, the delivery. As far as the voice, he is smooth operator for sure. Like definitely. Like it's just like it's just enjoyable to just like to just hear because it's just like yeah, it is. I mean, and it's distinct, which for me I think subconsciously gonna like be a big factor as to whether or not. It's funny because I just thought of it for the first time. You're like, if I gotta be feeling the voice, and I think about it, I'm like, yeah, this shit is in your ears and you're listening to this person. So like, if the bars are fire, but like the voice is like annoying or non-attractive to you, like how are you gonna listen to it? It's in your ear and shit. It's like abrasive. So yeah, like he knows how to pick his beats because like that smooth, like just like pimp shit he's got going on, like really like works with the, you know, I don't want to say laid back, it's too vague, but just like cinematic kind of like epic. He has very epic music. Yeah.
Yeah. Smooth is a good way to describe him too.
Yeah, he's smooth. He definitely smooth. So much game, so many jewels. Like I was saying before, like he'll say shit. I'm like, damn. You know.
Back for the crown, baby. In the AV that's brown like gravy. Styles wavy, lazy eye, Tracy McGrady. Deliver like an 80-pound baby. I'm a horse, you a rope. I let off max, you crap in your clothing. Golden moments, Rolls Royce driver named Coleman. 45 watch game frozen. Stay at the dip, mad salty like a potato chip. You know the routine, I'm out to break a bitch. Over the stove with the baker's mitts. I'm still on that gangster shit. Burning dour, European footwear. I'm coming off a real good year. Cushion the air. Yeah, them niggas like books look square. I swear they ain't even got hood flair. I'm a natural, you little rascal. Or more swag, I wouldn't put it past you.
All right, well, at the risk of bringing us down off this Roc Marci high, I do have to say there are some lyrics on this album, and maybe most of his projects, with the exception of his most Elephant Man's Bones, the most recent one, that I think might be somewhat problematic. I mean, there's some that are downright homophobic, and you know, hip hop has, of course, had a history with homophobia, and we could frame things that Roc has said as sort of a product of their times, or frame them as, I don't know, a cultural trend or something that we're learning how to move away from. But I bring this up as a way of asking you, like when you're writing, I wonder how much you think about how your lyrics might be interpreted or received in the future.
Great question. Important question. Very, very, very important question. Yes. I'm super fucking careful about what I write and what I go record in the booth and put out. Like, it's like, that shit is everything, you know? It's like, there's a certain amount of power. Music is so powerful. 2 bars can change someone's whole life. So it's like, and when, you know, like, to be clear, like, there are moments where I might say some shit, I say some shit that I'm sure some people will find offensive, but like, let's say, for example, if I'm using the word bitch, it's like used within a certain context where it's not just a mindless use of a word, you know, that's often used to refer to women in hip hop. You know what I mean? It's like easily used to do that. And whenever I've used it, just one example of this, whenever I've used it in context like that, which is not very often, yeah, like if one is to really like listen to what's being said, it's framed a certain way. It's not just, like I said, mindless and just there. So yeah, I mean, I'm very careful with an intentional, like, you know, like I'm thinking really hard when I'm writing. So it's like, and at the end of the day, like, I'm not a bigot, I'm not sexist, I'm not a homophobe, and I don't want to promote any of that personally. So it's like, but at the same time, there's stuff I'm not going to censor myself, right? And there's like things I want to discuss and ways to navigate stuff. I could talk about this for half an hour, I won't, but yeah, I definitely think about it very hard.
Yeah, it seems like Roc might be thinking about it more. I mean, I have to take the fact that you don't really hear as much of, or really any of, the sort of homophobic lyrics on Elephant Man's Bones as perhaps a sign that he's more aware.
Perhaps, yeah. I can't remember off rip the ones from Reloaded. I just can't remember them. But and then Elephants Man's Bones was a great record, and I listened to it, but I haven't lived with it just because I don't live with people's albums. I very rarely live with people's albums at this stage of my life because I'm just like I'm careful about what I let permeate the like creative bubble and I'm listening to my shit. But yeah,
Sure.
that era of rap is like, yo, like that's just how like that's just like that was just like you said, like it's like a cultural thing and people change and perhaps because he is very like he loves Little B, for example. Like Little B literally has an album called I'm Gay. You know, and I've seen him support Little B after that was out, so he surely knows. I remember he shared Little B on like Twitter. Like all the comments were like, nah, this ain't it, King. And then just like what? So yeah, you know, think about like homophobia for me always like as a quote unquote black man, whatever, who's been through and like a lot of quote unquote black men and women go through experiences of racism. It's like homophobia is racism's like next door neighbor. Like if you can just hate a person for the way they look, you can easily hate them for who they fuck. And it's like it takes a certain level. And I say this respectfully because I mean it generally, but it does take a certain level of like, you know, ignorance, like hate on someone for them being different than you that I just personally don't have. To be clear, like, I mean that generally I'm not saying, you know, ignorance doesn't necessarily have to be like a negative knock on someone, right? It could just be like a thing you just maybe didn't think about or consider. Like, it doesn't have to be like you're stupid or anything, right? So,
Right.
I would say ignorance and fear.
Facts.
Because with racism and with homophobia, existence outside of like, we'll just say homophobia for now, like the cis straight male world, like anything outside of that is a threat.
Right.
And it makes people question their own. I look at I am a queer Black woman. I look at homophobia as people sort of reaction to their own sexuality and a threat to that. And also like the threat to sort of this idea that existence outside of that can make them question that and they don't like it. Right. So that's it for me. It's a lot of that shit is based in fear. And the same thing goes with racism.
I mean, it's just like what James Baldwin used to say, you know, the racism is about whatever's going on in the white person. Like whatever hatred you have in your heart, you need to take a look at because it's about you. It's not about me.
Yeah. Right. It's your problem. It's your shit. Yeah. Fear. 100%. Totally objectively a fact. Yes, what you said. Everything. Yes to everything you said. Yeah. Fear. Motherfuckers are scared out here. Don't be scared. Shit.
Stupid. I also wondered because hip hop unfortunately has allowed homophobia to exist for so long. I wonder if when Roc was starting out or anybody that's starting out and they are sort of liked by a specific audience that they feel like they have to go there. And once you get to a certain status, once you got your audience, you don't need to reference that kind of shit anymore. So I also thought about that too.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, perhaps.
Maybe. I mean, I don't want to like go in on Roc necessarily, but his audience was established quite a while ago, I think. It seems like it's taken longer than it may have needed to for the kind of awareness that we're talking about to take hold. But, you know, who knows? I don't know what's going on in Roc's head or in his heart. I just know some of the things he said on record.
Yeah, I just don't I just don't trust people. So I just so like this idea that, and I don't know him, but this idea that he suddenly become more conscious that in 2023 he shouldn't say homophobic things. Well, fuck, it was homophobic in 2012. So for me, I don't know, this idea where now all of a sudden we're just conscious that, oh, we shouldn't say this. Well, you shouldn't have been saying it back then. So I'm just like kind of like looking at the layers to that and the dynamics around it and wondering like, what is really your intention here? So again, I don't know him. Maybe he did change. Maybe he's like, I don't need to say this anymore. But I just thought about that because of how much the culture embraces homophobia and allows it.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll never know. You'd have to tell us.
Right. Unless we have a conversation with him directly, it's speculation. So
maybe he'll let us know someday. Okay, all right. That got real serious. I guess I should have seen that coming, but thank you, both of you, for your thoughts.
Real shit,
Well, Gabe, this has been great. Thanks so much for taking the time and sitting down with us.
Yo, this was tight. You guys are great, journalists. You had really good questions. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I always really appreciate that. I actually studied journalism at university. I've had to interview people in the past. It's not easy, and to me, it wasn't easy. And it's y'all really took the time and really fucked with me and stuff before you spoke to me, and I really appreciate that a lot. Yeah,
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, is there anything you want folks to know about where to find you, where to find the music, what to look out for?
Yeah, Champion on IG. I don't Champ and then Yon, but mostly listen to my music. Fuck IG, but at the end of the day, it's how I feel. Even though I shouldn't feel that way probably because Instagram is important. I just don't give a fuck. Anyways, I have it in late August. And I got so much really good music coming. So, keep knocking that Pangea and then, tab back in August. And thank you.
All right, folks, this has been The Next Move, and thank you for listening.
Peace.
Hey, transaction in the New York minute, shit happens. Underworld cabins, a lot of the smartest niggas I met, they was trapping. Cash apping, prostitutes and credit card scammers. Spent a lot of loot, protected feet in my habits. When I was a youth and didn't know what a man is. I remember one time I was buzzing, steadily ducking the one time I was bugging. Heroin lunchtime in the oven, ounce of coke on the table, my nigga had an onion. Yeah, the key factors of my sins in the kitchen, just whipping the weed, whacking in the bin, making the hashish, painting the pastiche. Niggas is athletes at making the cash me, ayy. One time on the Upper East Side, bought so many pills, he gave me a free ride. Call my nigga up, he definitely gon' slide. When a homie got robbed, he said he let me all a 9. I was 17, I told him it's all good. See me in the street, they know why I'm in the hood. Triple OD'd more times than I should. Got the heart of a lion, I'm still rhyming from the book. Oh, one time, turning a reflex. Seen a pretty girl turn into a sweet mess. Ecstasy pills all over the seatbelt. So you know the deal, mommy, just keep it a secret. Used to get high till all of my eyes closed. Smoking broccoli, smoking chocolate, smoking hydro. Drug life, the type of life that I know. Dar es Salaam, New Rochelle to Wild.